Hi, my name is JD Marshall, and this is my story. When I was a kid, everything seemed great. The furthest back I could remember, life was amazing. I grew up with amazing Christian parents. We lived in Dallas, Texas, where life was good at that moment. Um, Family was married. When I was a kid, I can remember like having Christmas and never being disappointed with the amount of gifts that were, strewn across the floor. Um, you know, Grew up, elementary school was good, had good friends. We had, a lake house and a boat and lots of toys and things that were very uh, blessing, whenever I was a kid. Uh, and then, Junior high hit, I had my first bullying experience. It was nothing big, but it gave me a sense of knowing that, whatever I was upset, my stomach would get upset. So that was my first incident. I recall a time when my parents, this was in high school, but my parents were starting to fight a little bit, and I had lied to them about something, and it just wrenched my gut because I knew I wasn't doing the right thing, and I was lying to them. Anyway, I ended up telling the truth, and all the gut pain went away. So again, my emotions were always connected to my gut pain. Um, and then in high school, when I was a junior, my parents started fighting a little bit more, or having disagreements, not fighting. They didn't ever get physical, but something was off. And as a young kid, I'm oblivious. I still, I'm a slow learner, but something was off, and there was some disagreements. And out of nowhere, it felt like for me that my parents were separated. And man, I just remember that being gut wrenching as a kid who I kept all my value in my family of origin. I was happy because they were happy, um, and then it went away. My parents ended up getting divorced. God, we had so many stories. It's such a tangled web. But my value that I had in my family had disintegrated. They got divorced. Within, I think, a year's time, my dad had remarried somebody, my mom had remarried somebody, and my life was just shattered. I didn't know which way was up. Uh, and then college hit, and it was just a massive change. And so I tried to find comfort wherever I could, whether it be girls or alcohol, attention getting, just being as outgoing as I could so that people would notice me. There was really handsome guys at Baylor, so of course they all worked out and were buff. So I had to I had to do that as well, right? So I started taking these big protein shakes and working out all the time, and um, I I ended up getting like really messed up stool. Like I was having constipation like crazy, to where I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I called my doctor, and he's like, "Well, have you changed anything in your diet?" And I was like, "Oh, I started taking these protein shakes." And he said, "Well, stop it." And as soon as I did, the trouble cleared up. So that was my first inclination that what I put in my body also affects how I feel. So my emotions, my nutrition, all affect the way I feel. Um, and then after college, or during college, I had some failed relationships, very sweet girls, just not the right ones for me. After college, same thing. Didn't know where I wanted to go work wise. Didn't know girl wise, what I wanted to pursue. I was just kind of all over the place, a little bit lost. Um, so I ended up getting involved in the entertainment industry and doing modeling and acting, and went out to California and had some fun times out there. Again, just still kind of lost. And it's okay to be lost because this world is broken. Let me just tell you that right now. So come back from LA, and again, relationship after relationship failed, either because of me or because of them, or just because it wasn't the right person or right time or whatever. But then I met my wife, my girlfriend at that time, who, man, I knew the day I met her I was going to marry her. Uh, but prior to that, I was traveling with a job that was a marketing job, and I had gotten sick, and it was like 3 weeks of just feeling, nauseous and having to run to the bathroom and not being able to go to the bathroom, and feeling like if I did go to the bathroom, it was just a little bit, and it was like bloody, tarry stool. I had lost a lot of weight, and I just thought maybe this was, a bug that I got from a trip that I took for work. And then after, about a month, my mom and my sister came knocking on my door, and they made me go to the hospital. I was sick. My dog would even lay her head on my lap because she knew something was way wrong, more than I would care to admit. So they took me to the hospital, and that was my first diagnosis with ulcerative colitis. I was rude to everybody in that hospital. Sorry if you waited on me, because I didn't feel well at all. But they gave me some medicine. They gave me some steroids, and it calmed it all down after a week or two of being on the steroid. And then I was off of that, but I was on a maintenance medication, mesalamine. It was called Azicol at that time, and I'd be on that for the rest of my life. So, okay, I gained my weight back. I got my health back. I started eating the way I had always eaten, which I thought was pretty healthy, but looking back now, it's not. And you might think the same thing. We'll talk about that later. So another 6-7 years go by, and I had my next flare, which was a little bit worse, but I knew what was going on now. And it had infected a little bit more of my colon, and so they upgraded it just a little bit. But they put me through the same rigmarole. I lost a lot of weight. The stool was awful. I had just symptom after symptom. And then they put me on a round of steroids with my maintenance medication. But it didn't knock it out this time, so they did another round of steroids, and it finally knocked it out. And again, road to recovery, slow, but okay. So I thought, hey, this is what it's going to be for the next 8 years. This is what it's going to be for the future. Every 6, 7, 8 years or so, I'm going to have a flare. It's going to be bad, and then we'll throw some meds at it, and I'll be okay. And that's what it was for the first 2 rounds. But then I met my wife. We got married. We moved out to LA. We actually did Chicago for a little bit and moved out to LA. She's an absolute blessing. More on her later. When we were out in LA, I kind of job hopped, got enough entertainment business to stay in it, but not successful. That's all for a purpose. And then COVID hit, and we had already had 2 children, amazing, beautiful children, older boy, middle girl, and we were pregnant with our 3rd. My 3rd flare hit, and this one wasn't so easy. This one changed everything. So I had gotten really, really sick and had been bedridden for almost a year. It didn't seem like that to me because I was sick and I didn't really understand time right then. I had bad brain fog. I had styes. I had, H spots. I had rashes, all the stool issues. I had started losing like part of my hair on here. Like my beard had gone absolutely white in splotches. It was crazy. It all came back when I healed. I had vertigo. I mean, I can't tell you the laundry list I just felt awful. I couldn't move. And if I did, it was straight to the bathroom and straight back. With that flare, they put me on steroids again. They had talked about putting me on a biologic. That was the next step up. And I had been upgraded to Crohn's now. So it was affecting my full colon and probably was going to get worse after that. I had developed something called a fistula. It's gross. Look it up. It's basically your body trying to create another exit for the toxins that were building up in there. And it does that by burrowing a hole to the outside of your skin. And it was disgusting and painful. But I remember my kids coming in and saying, Daddy, can you play with us? Can you play with us? And my wife just being like, he'll play when he feels better. And when I started to get better, I realized, man, that had been a year. And it stole a year of my life. We had our 3rd child. I had started getting a little bit better. We had our 3rd child. And then that stress with her and COVID threw everything off. Our youngest child had been born with arthrogryposis, so she had some difficulties with her legs. And just the stress of a 3rd child, COVID, being sick, it all hit. And so I got really sick again. Had to go to the colorectal surgeon, and she said, you're going to have to cut this out, and surgery is the only option. I said, well, what are my other options? It has to be something else, right? She said, this is your only option. We're going to schedule you for next week. And I got angry. I told her, you watch me. And I started doing research and finding out people who had recovered from a fistula or who had healed naturally from ulcerative colitis, from Crohn's, from any of these IBD issues. And so I started doing research and looking at all the different diets, all the different doctors and what they said and where they overlapped, and they all said the same thing. I took that as truth, and I started drastically changing my diet. Starting off with no sugar, no dairy, no gluten, eating more fermented vegetables, single ingredient foods, as least processed foods as possible, integrating things like ginger and garlic and bone broth, just eating real God-made food, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And we've made it so sickening with profit, taking the nutrition out of food to make them last longer, to ship them across the country. Anyway, I got back to eating the way God intended it to, even though you could eat a perfect diet right now and you still wouldn't live forever, because there's just no way to control all the variables. I also started doing something called neurocycling, which is just a fancy way of saying changing your thought process. So I was attending to all the messed up thoughts that were in my head, coming from abandonment issues, from a divorce and loneliness and failure, and working through all that, basically counseling yourself in essence. And so working on my nutrition and my mind management really made a difference. And I was able to make all the symptoms reverse over about the course of 6 months. And it was miraculous. I know that God allowed me to find this path because I started doing my quiet times, and I started paying attention to Him. And I'm not saying that if you do all the things I do, that you are going to find healing. I'm just thankful that He allowed it for me. Not saying that He can't do that for you. He might. But some people don't find healing on this side of heaven. My mom had Parkinson's, and we had moved from California back to Texas for a slew of reasons. It's expensive out there, the COVID outbreak. Wanted to come back and spend some time with my mom before she passed. But when I saw her, and we were back for about 3 years to be able to spend some time with her, seeing her decline, she had Parkinson's, and seeing the foods that they fed her at the hospital or at the old folks home, she declined really fastly when they started feeding her more and more processed junk. I even approached my stepfather and said, can I bring meals for her and try and, switch this around? But he wasn't having it. It's a different story. Anyway, on the day that my mom died, January 3rd, 2024, I was the only one in the room besides her caretaker. And to see her body there, lifeless, was an epiphany, because I had known her my whole life. She was the only person that made me feel not weird, other than my wife. The only person that fully got me, and she was gone. And as I looked at her, I knew she wasn't there. It was just her body. And all the things she had told me as a kid about heaven and about God all just rushed in, and I knew it as truth, and I know I'll see her again. I'm missing so much of this story, but this is the highlights, if you can call them that. I now am fully healed. I live a different life that is constantly thinking about glorifying God, eating the right foods, treating people with love and kindness and respect and generosity, and trying to figure out how He best wants to use my talents that He has given me to bless His name. Still haven't figured that out. But I kind of have found my identity in I'm a comedic-minded, oh gosh, what is it? I'm totally forgetting. I'm a comedic-minded, disruptive shepherd. I try and ask the hard questions now, not just the, hey, how you doing? Good, I'm good. How's your team? My team's good. Yeah, comedic-minded, disruptive shepherd. Because I want people to ask the hard questions and think, what's going to happen when I die? What's going to happen to my kids? Is this going to outlast me if I do it well? Because we can sit here and we can build our kingdoms and build our houses and do all that stuff, but you don't take it with you. So now I'm focused on trying to advance the kingdom of Jesus, because the Father gave us Jesus to come down here, pay the ultimate sacrifice for a skunk like me. I often say I'm a dead skunk who Jesus jumped in front of a bus for. Jesus jumped in front of a bus for this already dead skunk. That's it. But he did. And I'm so thankful he did. Because now I have the opportunity to have the blinders taken off, to see life for what it really is, to bless my wife, my children, and anybody else I come in contact with as much as possible, to let them know about the love of Jesus. I still fight with myself about selfishness and pride. And if you have any issues with ulcerative colitis, IBS, Crohn's, please call me. I've been through it. I could tell you some gruesome stories. But if you know of somebody or you are that somebody, please call me. I have a program put together. I'd love to just talk with you or pray over you. But if you know of anybody, send them to gotakebacktetable.com. Otherwise, many, many blessings on you. I will be praying for you. If you have ulcerative colitis, IBS, UC, Crohn's, any of that stuff, I pray for people like that almost every morning. So I hope you find healing. But if you don't find it at this age, and you're a Christian, and you believe in Jesus, that he died for your sins, you will find healing eventually, because we win. All right, guys, that's the highlights. It's just going to get better from here. I cannot wait to get to heaven and see Jesus and my mom again. Love y'all.